You can view the video of this podcast on Jazz Cabbage's YouTube or Facebook pages.
Hey, so we're going to have an awesome show today. Off to a slow start here, but it just is 4 o'clock pretty much. And we'll check out YouTube for next week. And maybe use 2 devices for it. But should have been a little bit more prepared before trying it today. Anyway, we're inching toward it. Also, man, we're going to be showing off sponsors here before too long. It's been taking a while to get all the proper documents and stuff to work with the state to get this moving, but we're gonna have to push it up a little bit. And I guess that's a story for a lot of people. That end of things is just moving really slow right now. But for sure, like a lot of our main sponsors and people have been supportive for a long time. I haven't mentioned it for a while, but I really want to make sure that I acknowledge the Botanical Company has supported me and what I do otherwise, and I definitely support them, and I'm happy to be there and working with a great team to bring a good operation to the industry and with the right philosophy and approach, and just much appreciated. Grow Green of Michigan, we're going to do some really cool stuff once we get this up and running, including like having a research and development grow in a tent here at my place, and keep content of that every week and see how different things work out for that. They're going to be involved with that, which is pretty cool. Real Leaf Solutions, Redemption, Detroit Nutrient Company. Spoken to many people who are on board here, so just looking forward to getting that all stuff started, and we might move it ahead a little bit and circumvent the amount of time that the state is taking here. So didn't expect that to happen, but I guess that's not uncommon right now, and also makes sense. So we're expecting to have the guys from Mi Canna Cast come on, which is another cannabis-based podcast that maybe other people have seen it. They were familiar with Medical Mondays, not so much us when I first met them, but they've got a really good show. 2 young guys that are really evaluating medicine and talking about current topics and cannabis, and just really good about it. Good chemistry and sound good, and just happy to have those guys on to introduce them to our audience and to bring them into like they're already in the family, but they're kind of like acknowledge their extension of their inclusion in the family. Brandy's joining us right now. Later on, we'll talk about the new reforming of the new Michigan ASA chapter, Americans for Safe Access. And then, man, really huge news. It's hard to overstate how important it is to finally have a breakthrough here. I mean, of course, very irritating that it didn't take place early on or even immediately as intended. But after 12 years, because of Michael Thue deciding to fight even past the point when it mattered anymore to him specifically, patients now cannot be denied being able to use their medicine while on probation. And that's huge. And we're going to talk to Michael about that. And of course, that was Komorn Law and his team. And they're not strangers to working on big cases and making big breakthroughs and exposing injustices and righting wrongs and that type of stuff. So they were right there again for this one. And looking forward to Michael coming on in a little bit and get some background on that. I guess one thing I wanted to bring up and get people's reflection on, might be a little rhetorical again, as a lot of our kind of discussions are in some ways, but we were concerned, and we brought it up here and on other shows on Planet Green Trees and else, probably Medical Mondays and elsewhere. There was a Supreme Court decision in People versus DeRuiter in which we were surprised because the Supreme Court basically ruled that there were limitations that we didn't expect or believe were intended that could be placed on the activity from the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act in terms of like where caregivers can do their, well, that wasn't about that. It was about a commercial thing, but it's been interpreted to by some places to believe that they can extend into the caregiver world and home growing and restrict that activity because it's reasonable by some arguments. And that's basically what the ruling said, was that the local decision makers can do. It's reasonable, setting up the stage for there to be a challenge as to what that means in almost every instance. with all of our municipalities and villages and townships. So there is a current, I think that might be somewhere else too, but currently there's a lot of discussion of this going on in Flushing Township, near where Rick is, and that is they are trying to limit activity of caregivers and their participation in Michigan medical marijuana.
West Bloomfield too.
Yeah, there's
A lot
that
of action on this in
there's
West
that
Bloomfield.
incident with the people who are from the neighborhoods who are complaining about the
Yeah.
houses being used.
And I believe Sterling Heights has been of the mind frame for a couple of years already that they can restrict caregivers. So haven't they tried to legislate that in Sterling Heights?
City of Fraser as well. Macomb County in general
Yeah.
has some backwards programs, but some of the communities are really considered little fiefdoms. And for
Right.
those that don't know, there's a lot of smaller communities in Oakland and Macomb County that are small in geography, but have a lot of residents because they're packed through residential areas. So,
Hey, all right. Hey, twofer.
Yo,
What's going
Nice.
on?
Groovy and Canna Dave.
that's us.
My Canna Cast.
Yeah, honored to be with the OGs in the game, if you will.
Yeah, thank you guys for having us on.
Yeah, Rick is likely older than you guys.
I thought they were talking to Debra actually. So, yeah.
Are you talking?
Hey, I'm in trouble now.
Big guns out real early.
Remember who I am, Rick.
I
Thompson,
know.
okay?
I know.
All right.
You can take a joke. That's who I remember you are.
Deborah's she's about to elbow you in the dick.
That's right. Yeah, that's my package
Yeah.
behind her elbow. She
So
just,
yeah, that is
Right.
behind
I'm
full
about to do
historical
worse than that.
perspective for you guys just joining us here from My Canna Cast.
Kind of watching on Facebook as I was getting things settled, but I just had to rip a quick dab and
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give 'em
Feel
my
free to keep that up while you're here. You're probably going to need to.
absolutely.
We're about to
We got a
spark
little
up
go.
right here. So.
Awesome, man.
Oh, yeah.
So just a little background behind Debra are caricatures of Rick and myself.
It's
okay.
not our characters. Those are
The-
actual photos taken
Yeah.
about 4 years ago at an event.
I am buff like that.
So
Yeah.
there are some people that like to make fun of us over the years, and that showed up in a magazine a few times. And it was supposed to be a play on the ambiguously gay duo from Saturday Night Live. And
Yeah.
It was supposed to be a diss, but we've
Well,
embraced it because
funny
it's
when
not
I
look at
saw-
the package they gave us, though, man. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's
So-
awesome. Yeah.
Funny at first you said Rick and Jamie, like, oh, I was like, oh, that makes sense because I saw RJ, different thoughts. I was just totally confused on what we were talking about. I was like, no, I'm just kidding. We're totally good guys. Yeah, that's cool though.
We got a lot of stuff coming up today, and we're going to take some time out for a minute and talk about your show.
Appreciate it.
And other people were aware of it, obviously, but I came across it, a while ago, and this is a great show, and this should be brought into our fold anyway, and brought to our audience, and we think we have a lot of great shows in Michigan on this.
Absolutely.
And it's great to be a family in that regard. Take different,
Absolutely.
talk about a lot of the same stuff, talk about a lot of different stuff, and we talk about the same stuff. We talk about it different angles and further discussion and stuff. It's all good.
Absolutely.
Somebody who's interested comes in and participates in a lot of it. But with us here today, Berg is the regular main host of Medical Mondays, and when I first came across you guys, you were definitely familiar with that one. And
Oh yeah,
Yo,
no, I
yo.
recognized as soon as I saw you, I was like, oh hey.
yeah,
I just I haven't formally met anyone, so this is just
This is great. This is great.
and I'm
and having great cannabis on there and talking about it and stuff like that is something they do also, which is
absolutely.
right up your alley. So we have
Live
Colin
every Monday
MacDougall
night.
here with us, and man, just really been involved in a lot of stuff, a lot of these broadcasts too, a lot of political things, and he and Jim Salame, who over here, and Jim is a former manager at Home of Medicine, which is one of the nicer, higher standard kind of retail outlets historically in the cannabis world. He and Colin have host the Entheo show, which is about entheogenic plants, mushrooms and psilocybin and stuff like that. And they've done a lot of work with Decriminalized Nature to get the city of Ann Arbor to, by council, make entheogenic plants lowest level of law enforcement priority, essentially decriminalize them. And the prosecutor of the county, Ellie Savitt, has said that basically is his policy for the county, well, he's prosecutor. So it's a really good situation there. And these guys were a big force and all of that.
Thank you for doing that. That's awesome because we actually spoke about that.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
One of our recent episodes. That's like a huge step forward. Washtenaw County, I believe, is the county, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's just like a huge step leading the way for all of Michigan and maybe the United States going forward. So great work.
And this show is based around helping to organize a lot of other places in the state to do similar work, whether by council vote, as happened in Ann Arbor, or by like a local ballot initiative or some effort that would get it there. And just for out of curiosity, there's like 9 cities on tap or something.
Yeah, we have like 4 or 5 like solid groups. And this week we have a group from Massachusetts on, and they passed 2 resolutions out in Cambridge and Somerset, Massachusetts. So we're going to talk to them. It's going to be a pretty interesting show on Friday.
Right.
So yeah.
Friday at 4 p.m.
Yep.
And Debra here has been involved with politics at large for a long time, with the Democratic Party and a lot of issues, but has been very helpful in the legalization effort and has the distinction of being involved with or orchestrating the local ballot initiatives in all of the like southern Oakland County cities, which is a particular state district, isn't it?
We did the entire district, city by city, except for Royal Oak Township, because at that point you could not do a township.
There was
no way to do them.
So all cities, which you could do the local ballot initiative, was involved in legalizing all of
so there was 6
individually all the cities in southern Oakland County.
Yeah, we did all the cities right in our little area here. We did 6 of them, passed all 6, 65% and above. Some of them were in the high 70%. So it was a pretty strong victory. This was before, obviously, the big victory before but it paved the way, and that was what it was about, was paving the way, opening people's minds and the possibilities of
and showed those are real polls. Like when people,
like I say, real
people
voters,
say anybody can take a poll and tell you that this or that or whatever. Well,
these were real
actually
voters.
showing up at the ballot box is a real one.
Yeah. When you go into a city like Huntington Woods or Pleasant Ridge and they vote 80% yes on an issue, that they feel strongly about this.
Those are real polls, no strippers. It's the real thing.
The real damn thing,
And also here with us is Brandy Zink, and Brandy came up here years ago from Ohio, where she was an activist before coming here, and she worked with the precursor group to the National Organization of Americans for Safe Access a few years ago. And she worked with the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association, and she worked with Matt Abel and Cannabis Council and many other things, but she is now here as the lead, the director of the reformation of the Michigan chapter of Americans for Safe Access. And so we will talk about that a little bit too.
Reformation.
So I think about with normal too. Also,
like that road.
They did that on purpose, And then this is Rick Thompson, who should need no introduction or explanation. If he does, let me know, and he'll be happy to fill you in for a while on.
A long while.
No.
Long while.
Rick's done a lot of great stuff that covers a lot of ground over the last decade plus in this whole arena. We couldn't even get through it all,
So we'll say nothing.
Yeah, works.
If we started now.
Good to meet you. Nice. Welcome to the show.
Hey, nice to meet you all.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we have other people that'll be popping in, and some others who are on the show from time to time, and we were talking about the move now by some local communities to be restrictive even on caregivers where they can grow.
Shelby Township.
And in Flushing. And some other places.
Did not hear about Flushing. I didn't hear that.
Flushing
rules,
Township.
Similar legislation changes, like to the power restrictions and whatnot, like the way they're doing it.
They want them to register and for there to be inspections, and it can only be limited to certain areas and stuff like that.
Come on.
That seems really harsh, especially since a lot of these people, if they might be doing it from their own homes. It's like you're asking people to move entire grow.
They've been taking care of 3 or 4 patients for 5 years now, and it's all been working fine.
What's
no
the big
problems.
deal now, right?
You get a couple of bad operators like this guy or whoever's doing this thing in West Bloomfield, and it just makes everybody look ridiculous. The neighbors are saying there's a lot of traffic and a lot of odor and a lot of this and a lot of that. Whereas other caregivers, like Jamie just said, have been operating for years on a full caregiver load, and neighbors are none the wiser.
Yeah. Every pediatric patient in Michigan has to have their parents as a designated caregiver. You have to. It's the law. And that means that if the parent is growing for that sick child at their home, if the cops come in and say, sorry, you don't meet my standard, what's going to happen to that sick child? All of a sudden, the parent can't do it. You're not going to stick the parent of a sick child with a bill for a commercial building in another city where they have to split time. No. So the fact that you're going to have a law enforcement officer coming between a sick parent and a sick child and their caring parent, that's a bad formula.
Oh, it's horrible.
It's not right at all.
And so it's questionable if the reach here extends into even restricting the caregivers.
I don't think it does. If you look at the intent of the law, how could it? The intent was caregivers were going to be growing on their property out of their homes. It's a small operation. That's what the intent was.
Yeah, but the law is always modified by court interpretations, and we are victimized by the most recent court interpretation. Remember when we had to carry our cannabis in locked boxes in the trunk?
Right.
Yep. So we're subject to the whims and whimsy of the judicial system, and that means we have to fight extra hard to fix them, just like Michael Thue did.
Rick was with me, but I got nailed for that very thing.
Yeah, it was so stupid. I was so lucky not to go to jail myself. It was that close.
Bad boys.
Warrants.
Well, again, thank you. That's another opportunity to say thank you to Komorn Law. Took 2 trips up there, and all of them, my shit was dismissed.
It's like yet again another Michigan cannabis businesses already deal with enough things, like already getting held back with can't writing things off. It's like you're yet again making harder to run a successful, even if it is just a personal practice, it's my personal business. It provides me and my family.
Yeah.
So it's just like you're taking away from more that it's like, especially when I heard restricting power and basing the searches off power. Again, I'm speaking just to Shelby. It's like, what if someone draws a hydraulic lift in their garage? You don't know what the power draw is coming for. So now you can get a warrant based off your power draw. That's like, I don't know. There's a lot of weird things with that one.
Every time we make a step forward, what we see is our prohibitionists ready to try and grab power back away from us. Just this last week, the state of Idaho determined that they're going to put it in their state constitution that you can't legalize cannabis. And I'm just having an impossible time imagining.
That's going to be hard to do.
I know, it's just stupid.
Don't you think?
Crazy. It's just
I think voters have a hard time putting things into state constitutions.
Well,
it's a hard sell.
I don't think Idaho is going to be the same as a Michigan voter, but we see legal challenges to the Mississippi law that was just enacted. We've seen legal challenges to several of the advancements we made in November of 2020. So prohibition still is out there, and those people that were comfortable saying cannabis is bad, they really want to go back to that world, the Scott Greenleys of the world, and they will push us that way if they get to. Jamie?
Scott Greenlee was our opposition. He led the opposition organization during the legalization effort.
My God, I debated his ass publicly.
It's true, ridiculous.
It was hilarious.
He was just kidding. It was money. It was an opportunist. He's like, oh, there's opposition that has funding. I'm going to be the guy that gets it, and I'll go around and debate with these hippies about this.
420, everyone.
And look how Tui just happens, just by pure coincidence, happens to slide in at 420.
Yeah. Great background, Michael, by the way. Love it. Yes.
Thank you. Hey, guys.
Michael made a quick appearance on
there he is.
On the chat anyway, on the Mi Canna Cast the other day when this was being discussed. He got tagged and came right on.
That was amazing. Cool. I appreciate you jumping on. We were like, that was like something you can't really set up. The amount of surprise we were like, oh. Really?
I thought that was huge news because I've had family and friends have their medical card and get it taken away, and they couldn't use cannabis for multiple years because they're on probation, and that's just ridiculous.
I mean, this is
why can someone be able to use their Percocet or Vicodin or Xanax or something like that if they're on probation, but you can't smoke cannabis or eat edibles?
Some judges allowed it though, but you had to fight for it. You had to file a motion. I mean. And some allowed it, and a lot did not.
Oh
so.
No! This was a decade ago. I had some charges against me, and granted, everything got dismissed. But I was on some DUI charge. Get a prescription for a real pill or a real prescription.
Wow.
Granted, this was a decade ago, so a decade ago things are different now.
I know a couple of people here. There's a pretty lenient Oakland County judge in the Berkeley area that would routinely grant that to probationary people. But they had to file a motion. You didn't even need an attorney, but you had to file the motion. He was, and I spoke to him about it, but most judges were not cool with it.
Oh,
so
no, she pretty much laughed
yeah.
at me and me and my attorney was like,
You
no.
know, the drug war is the biggest, example of illogical behavior on the face of the earth. So you can't expect logical conclusions to come from such an illogical act. And things that we see black and white, like Schedule 1 status for cannabis, it doesn't meet that standard. It doesn't. Fix it. Just fix it. Fix it now.
And Rick, when we see things that are illogical, we normally extrapolate that back to somebody benefiting or there's some nefarious kind of siphoning off of the funds or advantage of some kind, because it didn't make sense, but yet it did for somebody.
And in Michigan, we have proof time and time again that we are the most crooked and dishonest governmental system in the United States of America. I mean, it's not just me saying it. If it was me saying it, then that wouldn't mean anything. But I'm citing to you study
so
after
that's said about our
study
legislature
nationally.
quite a bit, and that gerrymandering's got a lot to do with that. If you don't really care if you don't have to really satisfy the collective will of your constituents, then you don't really care. I guess what you do. So.
Yeah, that's true. But we're moving towards a brighter day. We're moving towards a better future with cannabis. Gerrymandering's about to end with the redistricting movement that's going on. We have Democrats and female Democrats in charge of all 3 of the top state positions in Michigan. It's entirely possible for us to have a much better 2021 than we had in 2020.
I hope so. The second year of this pandemic is not going to be nice.
Berg was like, "You got to be fucking shitting me! You just said that." His eyes bulged a little bit.
I just try to keep it real, man.
He's like, it's not my show. I'm gonna just be quiet.
No, but congratulations, Mike. I haven't had a chance to say to you, congratulations for pushing on for a case that you could have begged out at any time, and you decided to drive it all the way because you knew it was important for people beyond yourself.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that in a second. But Mike, let's first talk about like what you're doing now, like how you're participating in the world with hemp and your activities and stuff like that. You have some cool shit going on.
Yeah, so we're still running our clinic, the Center for Compassion. We're still doing medical marijuana certifications, encouraging people to really get their cards, keep their cards. The benefit still of the original program, our original law, the law that we fought for. The state keeps trying to take our laws and change them up and make them to what they want them to be. And, I'm still trying to make sure that we remember the original act that we, the people, passed and not let that get lost. We know the caregiver system's kind of always under attack. And one way to really fight that is to keep people with their cards, not let the number of cards drop that are of registered patients each year. And then with that, we do our CBD products. So we run our clinic and we sell our CBD products. We also work with 1-to-1 ratios. We got a lot of different genetics and seed stock for 1-to-1s and CBD, but really focusing on the genetic sides with hemp, selling a lot of clones. We even have been looking at selling clones to licensed facilities as well, just to help them get some of the good Michigan genetics, keeping them in rotation, stuff that people are used to seeing and having. So those 2 things are really the sum of what I do as a business wise. It just helps me to be able to continue the activism, keeping that side going. Activism doesn't pay the bills. Many of us on here know that. We've been years and years of activism, and now it's getting harder and harder where we could at least sell weed, cannabis, medical cannabis, to our friends and family and, things of that nature. Well, as we encourage people to grow their own, we're getting less and less, traffic into the shop. So it's just continually learning how to adapt with this ever changing and ever evolving industry. We really do encourage selling them the plants, teaching them how to grow their own medicine, but we're there for them in their in-between times when they can't take care of themselves. And that's always been my focus. Many of you know I've been, this 12 years that I've had, been involved in the medical cannabis space with a, legal or business standpoint, doing certifications. Excuse me if it's kind of hard to hear. I just left the dentist not long ago. So, but the, with that, it's always been serving the people, serving our community, trying to make sure that we have safe access. I really have a unique loophole where I get to still work with caregivers and caregiver product. Don't know how long that'll last, but because I'm a certified medical assistant and we do the clinic and the CBD aspect, my township has left me alone. Traverse City is in the mix of all these lawsuits over recreational now because they let the 13 cannabis shops come into Traverse City. My township, all they've done, they're like, we're hands off. We know you've been at this for a long time. You have the legal business aspect of doing the clinics, and all they send me is a tax bill. And this year they actually sent me some paperwork to be tax exempt within the township, saying as long as you had less than this amount of equipment in the building, I think it was under $80,000 worth of like, what's the word I want right now? Assets in the building, that it would be tax exempt. So I'm really lucky with what I have established by going to school and getting that degree as a certified medical assistant. It's really helped me to be able to stay in the field and compete as all these licensed facilities are coming on board. We at least have a place. We have the opportunity to work with a lot of them because, especially right now in Traverse City, they're stuck in medical. So they need their patients to keep their cards in order for them to be coming into their shops also. So, I feel like we at least have a couple years left of being able to do certifications. We take it a step farther and really breaking down and getting custom treatment plans for people, guiding them through each step of the way through the process. So, that kind of leads into the case is where we're at. This is a case, it says right in there that it was mute as far as my decision went.
So meaning like you were already over it and you could use cannabis again, and it wasn't an issue at that time anymore.
Yeah.
But you're still concerned about the fact that you even had to do that and the other people that might have to go through that.
And Michael Komorn was worried that they might just throw it out because it would become a mute case. We had to address that before going into having to go to court. So he was prepared to be able to fight that if it was addressed.
It's similar to the standing issue that we talked about with the descheduling case that Komorn is also involved with, where they say, well, it hasn't hurt you. You're not being hurt or affected by it right now, so you don't have standing to be able to really bring this case. They were trying. It's a version of that they were going to try to do to get rid of this case.
But with my case, they said that because of it being that most misdemeanor probation cases are only a year period, the likelihood of somebody else taking it that far was highly unlikely, and that they said that it needed to be resolved. So we got a 3-0 unanimous decision out of the Court of Appeals, which in the past, those of us, Jamie and Rick, we know that the Court of Appeals hasn't always been in our favor. Like they've made us go to the Supreme Court on a number of issues. And then a couple people called the prosecutor to ask if the prosecutor was going to appeal it to the Supreme Court. Interlochen Public Radio actually called the prosecutor, as well as an activist in our community that's, been on top of Traverse City stuff. So it's really good news that it's the final law of the land now for Michigan. And it's something that sets precedents not only in Michigan, but that will be cited by attorneys in other states as well. And hopefully that we won't have to hopefully patients that end up in this situation in the future won't have to be filing a separate motion and paying an attorney to be able to use their cannabis. Hopefully the courts are just allow it now, and stop making us fight for our right. So I got to talk to Komorn a little bit about how that, applies. Is it a direct law change, or are patients all still going to have to petition for that right to use cannabis? But it seems like it should be taken off the general paperwork that just says no cannabis use is allowed. So
on I'm sure Thursday night, Planet Green Trees 8:00, hosted by attorney Michael Komorn. There will be a little bit more in-depth discussion and legal discussion, about these implications. But yeah, the idea that a medical patient for sure can't be denied using medicine on probation is the law of the land, and that prosecutor said that she was not going to appeal that to the Supreme Court. One of the follow-up discussions is whether or not, because the language is the same in the MRTMA, whether or not it should automatically apply to that, or if it's going to have to be challenged and go up the ropes again. So
when you say the MRTMA, what you're really saying is that it currently applies to just the 300,000 people registered as patients, but it should apply to every adult 21 or over, because the MRTMA is a legalization program. So as long as you're legally allowed to use cannabis, you shouldn't have it prohibited on your prohibition or your parole.
So what they're standing on.
This is where marijuana is different as medicine versus adult use, because you can drink alcohol and it's a privilege that you're taken away because it's part of your punishment. So when you need it medically, it is absolutely necessary as part of your medicine. But when you just want to have fun, when you were a bad boy or girl, it's time for you to, learn that's your debt to society, why they have that imposement. They can take away your right to drink alcohol. So when we regulate marijuana like alcohol, which was the intent of the MRTA, was to regulate marijuana like alcohol, that's the part of the punishment. So I think that it's significant that this is a patient right that we have, and patients need this to live. It's not just because we want to recreate. And I really thank you, Michael, for going on this long fight that didn't personally affect you, and how selfless this was, and how incredible. I also want to give props to him too for I got to go to the ASA conference, and he helped represent Michigan, and I was so proud to work with you and to walk the halls of Congress with you, and to hear you speak and share your story at the conference, and to hopefully make those connections that you did with your power with the hemp, and your degree, that you became a medical professional, and I'm just so proud of the work you've done and everything, and I congratulate you and thank you for what you've done.
Thank you for your work also, Brandy. It was a pleasure being there with you. Having somebody else from Michigan to help me do it. But they did also, to add in, they recited in the ruling the language also that includes like licensing and sanctions from licensing boards. So it did reiterate also some degree of safety implications for employment. And that's something else I need to kind of dissect with Komorn and see what that, how much that carries over. But it is reiterated in the decision that
would be interesting, because
disciplined or sanctioned in any way, even from licensing boards. And
right, and that was there's the Casillas case, which was the first stab at trying to solidify that as being protected in law, and then that went sideways and went to federal courts and didn't work out in our favor. So it would be cool if something like that has been.
That was Casillas versus Walmart, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
like,
Joseph.
Imagine like fighting Walmart.
Well, they went after the manager who fired him at first, but then that turned into he's just a puppet of the corporation. The corporation is out of state, so now it has to go to federal court. And then they didn't give a shit about our state law when it came to cannabis here, so that didn't get us anywhere.
There's been quite a few instances where we would have prevailed had state law been honored, but instead the judicial system chose to put it federally. I can think of the Duval case, the Basor case, Casillas. There's many, many others where they've elected to let the prosecution go national, and in other words,
Annie
people
Trevino
get jammed up. Yeah,
beat the state many times, and then they didn't dig that. So
yeah, they don't like when that happens. I'm worried a little bit over here myself. What's next? They don't like losing.
No. I heard that for years about Big Daddies, how even after Big Daddies was shut down, there were still investigations going, and that was a specter that haunted me. And you know what I'm talking about, Michael, when you have the suspicion in the back of your mind that at any time, suited gentlemen with shiny shoes are going to come in a group of 3 and your ass is going away, that weighs on you. There's no peace. There's no true peace when you think that could potentially happen at any minute.
No, and that's something I say that people don't really understand what it really takes to be an activist and what it really takes to fight them and get change to happen and occur. I've stood in front of a judge since I was 17 years old, quoting scripture, quoting law, and still having to go do my time. You know, I've seen a lot of shit. I've been put through a lot of shit. It forced me to make some other bad decisions just to be able to keep getting our cannabis and keep using. But I've claimed medical use since I was 16 years old, you know. So it is, you know, and because of that background and things that it led to, I've had my encounters with the feds. Like prior to cannabis use, you know, I don't have the best at record. Unfortunately, you know, I had a period of my life where I sold cocaine and because I couldn't afford to buy cannabis. And that's how I was able to keep my habit up of cannabis that I felt that I needed to function properly and to stay off the pharmaceuticals. Because of that, some of my friends did a lot of time. I was always the little guy that, you know, I knew kind of my limits. I knew how to stay in and out and, you know, keep your tight circle. And I never got convictions out of that. Luckily, God always, I say, put me in jail to get me away from certain periods where I was actually incarcerated for my fleeing and eluding during the indictment period that had come down on that cocaine case that had took my last friends down. So like I had caught a stupid fleeing and eluding that I outran the police because I lost my driver's license for my last possession of marijuana case. So it was like, they're just like the stupid things that rack up and spiral in that can lead people into probation. Like it can be anything sometimes that get you in trouble, and now you're stuck in a court system that's a big merry-go-round and a circus, and they're really hard to get anything accomplished with. You know, personally, this case from the very beginning, you know, I was able to really hold my ground because it's a misdemeanor. You know, what's the worst they can do? Like a year in jail? So I know that's not happening. And so from day one, I told the magistrate, she went through bond conditions and she says, you're not allowed to use marijuana. I'm like, hold up right there. Like, how can you tell me that you're not allowed to tell me that anymore? And the prosecutor scuffed and he kind of laughed at me. And I cornered him out in the hallway. He was talking to another attorney. I'm like, did you laugh at me in the courtroom? And he's like, yeah, I thought you were being rude. And I'm like, well, dig, I wasn't being rude. I held my ground. I got the judge to agree with me. You didn't like it, but I got my way. You know, she put it in there that they knew I would drive dirty because I was a medical marijuana patient. Now, they weren't okay with it and they expected my levels to go down, but I at least got her to understand that I would be dirty for a while until we went in front of the judge. Went through the same thing when it came to like a pre-sentence investigation about cannabis. I was like, you guys don't have this right. It came into sentencing and the judge says, you got to do 30 days in jail or do a year probation and quit smoking medical marijuana. And I just went off on him, like, you don't have that right. Like, and I started citing all this stuff. And he's like, why are we talking about marijuana? I said, because my PSI says do 30 days in jail or quit smoking weed. Like, that's not, you lost that option in 2008 when we passed the Medical Marijuana Act. You don't get to tell me that anymore. And all they could ride on was a circuit court policy from Judge Powers, who's been off the bench for the last 6 years. He's not even on the bench anymore. He doesn't even have a job in Traverse City and Grand Traverse County. And they're still riding on this policy that he wrote 6 years ago. And it was really so sad that they knew they had no real leg to stand on. I believe Michael Komorn told me they did not even write a response to this Court of Appeals. That's why they have no legal ground to even file appeal to the Supreme Court.
Right, they didn't mount it. They didn't mount
the Court of Appeals.
That's terrible. That's terrible, Michael. Well, it's great. It's great. But
Hey, Michael.
What a crappy way to execute their job.
Hey, Michael, I have a question for you. First off, thanks for all the hard work you've done, and unfortunately, you got tied into all of this. But I'm grateful that this change in law occurred. But does this court decision apply to people out on bond right now?
So it's as I believe most Court of Appeals cases. I don't know if there's a time frame. So that would be something we'd have to check with. I don't know if there's any kind of a time frame before it goes into like an effect or to set precedents. But I mean, it is the law now. So it's like, it's on the books that I've told other friends of mine, like, if your card is valid, you can pretty much walk, like Komorn's words to me in a text message is, you can walk in and tell the judge and your probation officer to fuck off. They don't have the right to do.
Komorn's a little more radical than a lot of attorneys.
Figuratively, right? It's not encourage people to actually.
I like it. That was funny.
No, that's
Love the
You
word.
have to use your choice of words and live with them. But
that's true.
Feel that.
We've been talking for a long time about reasons why you should keep your medical marijuana card active, even though we have adult use in Michigan. Medical, first of all, establishes so many different rights and protections when you're driving and things like that too. But this is yet another
Some
reason.
things have been decided under the medical scenario that should be the case for the legalization law, but that is not official yet. So you take your risk at that. So I think that I'm not positive, and I guess again, Thursday night for an in-depth legal discussion on all this kind of stuff. But there's probably like a 30-day period in which there could be reconsideration asked by the prosecutor on that decision or something like that. I know that the prosecutor said that they're not going to, but there's probably a time frame where some things could happen, and it has to be waited out until it becomes official. That's probably true.
A waiting period until implementation of the new ruling. Yeah. But still, you can effectively imagine nobody wants to be the prosecutor that tried to slide one in just before the deadline. What a crappy way to live your life. If you're so hungry to punish people that you try to buck the law in order to get one down there. I mean, unfortunately, there are places in Michigan where that shit goes.
Yeah. We're in a crooked ass state, but again, the prosecutor can't. So it's just waiting out that time frame if there is one now, and it stands. So
here's the beauty of having a gigantic marijuana law section of the State Bar Association in Michigan here. They got like 700, I think, plus members last time I looked, or last time I was told. So that means when one of them has a success, there's an easy vehicle for all the criminal defense attorneys covering the subject to get that data and get that information. And so now, it's not like it's going to take a while for Lenawee County to be able to pick up on something like this, or Schoolcraft County in the Upper Peninsula. No, everybody gets it right away.
It's
domino effect.
Notice to all prosecutors.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I was going to take this week and make sure that my old PO got it, just so she knew that all my friends were going to start dropping dirty.
Yeah. Oh, that's quality. So I saw on Facebook you celebrated by hitting some powder. Then is that right?
I went up to Mount Bohemia, and it's one of my favorite places to get away. There's still no cell signal. It's really rare. I'm still really big on disconnecting. I work a lot. I get a lot of energy draw. I'm an empath, so I feel the patients that I work with. Being in our situation, sometimes it's almost like dealing with a new PTSD situation every day. When we're dealing with patients that are truly like, we're trying to help them, and they're they still die. They still, there's still things going on that we can't deal with. So it's just being able to disconnect. On the way back though, I did start a Facebook fundraiser, and then last night I did put up a GoFundMe that I started sharing. Komorn has been really great about working with me this last year, especially with COVID and all the changes in the court system and having to go on Zoom. He's really been great with reducing his fees, but the guy still has a team of people that have had to do a lot of work on this case. I've given him a little bit of money, but I still owe him a fair amount. So I just got to do that plug that it is out there.
Where can people find it?
There's a GoFundMe page that's on my Facebook and Instagram. There's a link under my Instagram profile for the GoFundMe. And then I'm going to start sharing that. I just put it up last night, and today I've been kind of busy. So I'm going to start sharing that more so this week, the both of them, and see if we can get that goal. It started out really strong. We've had 55 people donate. I put it up as like, if all my 5,000 followers donated $2, we'd be there. It is a $10,000 cat, but it is all going to them legal fees.
I'm going to start to consider giving $2
Oh,
myself.
Jamie, thank you.
There you go. It's all it
Well,
takes.
I can tell you just a little secret. Shh, don't tell anybody. But last night at Michigan Normal's board meeting, we decided to donate some money to your fund. Shh, don't tell anybody.
Thank you. I know Brad was huge.
$2.
That up. I know
So that a whole
Brad
group.
Forrester. He was one of the first people with Melody Carr that I met. I walked in to see Dr. Eisenbud in Southfield, Detroit.
Oh my God, that's a name.
In January of 2009, right?
Oh.
When it went legal. You know, and I've watched the whole road, and I've been here fighting every step of the way. Like, I've got friends that still say, I remember when you told us in prison that you were going to get out and you were going to do this. And, you know, and I've stuck to it. Like, it's my passion. This is my church. Though I have a little bit of a bad background, some of you might know, though, I was also raised in the church. My dad's a preacher. I traveled as a youth evangelist. So this really has become my ministry, my mission, my outreach. Cannabis at a very young age saved my life. It took a lot away from me for the first 11 years of my adult life. But because of activists and people like Jamie and Rick and Tim Beck and Charles Ream and countless other individuals, that these laws have changed, and they've saved our, you know, for me, they've saved my life. They've changed my life. It's been able to give me a profession that I really believe in and that I support and I'm passionate about. And all, you know, my whole goal has always been to fight the system, to change. You know, I've dealt firsthand with the corrupt systems since I was 17, just getting beat up and not having money to be properly represented. You get railroaded. When I walked in there with Komorn this time, heads turned, things were different. The way the judge talked to me last time versus the way the judge talked to me when I walked in there with him was completely different demeanors in the courtroom, you know, versus from representing yourself. So, or having a public defender. So, you know, they're attorneys that can be costly, but they definitely are worth the money and they can change the outcome significantly.
Yeah, I want to say, speaking of awesome attorneys, I texted a couple, Komorn himself and David Rudoy in Royal Oak, Rudoy Law, and they both text me back and say, yes, it does apply to people on bond.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I hope that helps
Rudio
one of our
has
listeners.
And David Rudio has been great for the cannabis community. He's had some really influential decisions and he's been a great fighter.
Yeah.
Rudio's a good dude.
Yeah, and obviously on hand to answer a question like this for us and when we need it, and that's also very cool. Been a big part of.
He's still on his honeymoon. He's still on his honeymoon, if I'm not mistaken.
No, he's back. He's back and rocking. He was in court.
They were in
right away as soon as he got back.
Roses in their teeth with their feet and bathed in water with little fish and stuff. You know, they were just living it up. I was so jealous, but you know, you're always happy for people that find their true soulmate, and it certainly seems like he and Kayla have mate rates that. We've been around them for a long time. Mm-hmm. They've been good to each other.
Good people.
Yeah. He is. We have a nice little community, legal community too, in the activism movement.
Which we're lucky, because that's really key to us being able to get these changes done and these laws passed. If we didn't have a good set of a legal team that actually donated and gave up some of their time to help, we'd be fighting round and round to get it done ourselves. It'd be almost impossible.
Michael, haven't you been in situations like talking to city councils where you say one thing and they're like, bleh, and then a lawyer steps up and says exactly the same goddamn thing you just said, and they're like, oh, you know, oftentimes it's not what you're saying, it's who's delivering the message that determines whether it's received properly. And sometimes you just need lawyers. And if they're not willing to show up, you're screwed.
Oh, yeah. Man. 100%. You just need a lawyer nowadays. Like, it's a joke to even go in there and hope you defend yourself. Like, yeah, right. Like, unfortunately, and that you shouldn't think like that. It shouldn't be like that.
Well, it shouldn't be like that. And they make the law library available. And I will say, if you start citing law like you're an attorney, their demeanor will change. If you really know what you're talking about, they will take you a little bit more seriously. There's a few times that I've really really got myself out of some situations. And I've had even state cops come down and tell another state cops that they were working with, like, don't question him. He knows the law. Like, he's good, because they know that we know the law better than them when you start citing it off, right? Like we've given this money to train the police, but has it ever happened? Have they ever used money to actually educate the law instead of just using it to raid us and enforce the law? I mean, that's in the law. Like, they were supposed to be educated. I don't think it's ever happened.
Well, I'd like to think that doctors are supposed to be educated on the cannabis advancements, and I don't think they are. Nurses are not. I mean, continuing medical education credits are required, but not necessarily in cannabis. And I think we have a lot of healthcare providers that are behind the 8 ball when it comes to that, as well as our law enforcement officials and people at Child Protective Services and people that adjudicate things at a city level. There's a lot of people that are just not where they need to be as far as being updated on what the laws are and what cannabis actually does for society, too.
Meanwhile, you'll still see things like Marinol being prescribed.
Yeah.
What? It does all the same things, but we can tax it.
Well, and that was exactly my loophole right away. When the judge told me that I had to quit, I told him in court, I said, I'll try. It was December 20th. No way. And I really considered turning myself in for 30 days and being over it. Like, I really did consider it. Like, I'm like, no, I'm not going to jail for the holidays. Like, I'll try. Maybe the first of the year I'll set everything up and go do the 30 days. And then I got out of the court and I got to thinking about it. Obviously I called my doctor. I said, you have all my medical history on file. I said, I want you to look up Marinol. What are all of their improved implications? So everything that it's approved to prescribe it for. Well, spinal stenosis has been recently been studied with Marinol for pain treatment. I have spinal stenosis. It's on paperwork. It's documented. I don't have to fabricate or make anything up or tell a story. Like, it's been documented on paper. So I said, send that script over for me. And I asked him if he could send that to the pharmacy for me, and he did. And he had every ethical right to do it because it had been being, looked at as a treatment for that. We recommend medical marijuana anyways. He's wrote my scripts. So we did it. So I walked in to go report for my first probation meeting, and I handed her the prescription for Marinol. I said, here, you can take this up with the judge. I said, this is an FDA approved drug and there's nothing you can do about it. So it goes to the judge, and in the little court transcript, like, head probation lady, she's like, it will make him drop dirty for THC. So the judge approved Marinol and knew I would drop dirty for THC, but denied my motion to use medical marijuana in the plant form.
Stupid.
The logic doesn't.
How could they?
Doesn't add up.
Listen, you expect marijuana to be used with logic with these people, then it's really frustrating. That's a problem, man.
Because it's not FDA approved, like.
Yeah, FDA
like, no, I mean, that's
approved drug, point. Good for the judge. Cannabis not, exactly. So, Mike, is it true that in the Marinol labeling or warnings, it discusses, like, make sure you know how it works with you before driving, or something more along those lines than just don't drive while using it or something like that,
Yeah, and there's the long implications of that they print with every pharmaceutical and the possible side effects and the BS that can come with it. But all it is synthetic THC dipped with sesame oil. That's lab made THC and sesame.
100% THC.
So even though you could have used any really awesome cannabis that you may have had available to you, and it would have looked the same on the test, you were stuck having to use that Marinol.
No, I never quit smoking.
I think I got the loophole.
And by time
how can they fucking prove this?
They can't. They can't. Even right now, they're fighting over whether hemp should be. The hemp is going to metabolize the same way as THC and create these metabolites that drug testing should basically just be thrown out because hemp's a legal product now. They can't tell the difference. It's science. They can't tell the difference. So when I finally went in and had the motion to appeal, the motion to use medical cannabis, you know, the judge denied it, but Komorn ended up in the judge's chambers arguing with him and the prosecutor for like 15 minutes behind the scene. And they come back out and they called me up to the bench. And the judge says, well, all your drug tests have been right about the same levels. They've all had the same levels. He says, and we're going to obtain that to the Marinol pills are in your system and they're working. And we're going to allow you to use the Marinol, right? So like at that point, I wasn't going to get violated anymore for dropping dirty.
So did you
smoke, and I smoked the same amount of weed every day.
Did you have to fill the script?
You had to keep the numbers up.
I did fill the script and I did try it. I wanted to see what it would be like. You know, I wanted to see if they did take me to court. Like if they called the pharmacy, I wanted them to at least see that I had picked it up.
It's expensive, isn't it?
So
it wasn't too bad. I used a discount card and it wasn't too bad. It is a little costly though, but it's come down significantly from where it was at before.
Hey, so we were joined by Shelly Smith, Weeds and Reeds.
Reeds and weeds.
Reeds.
It up again.
Reeds. He does it on purpose.
He does it on
Alphabetically,
purpose.
R
Yes,
Reeds,
for sure.
W Weeds.
And Razor Ray Reyes, who has not been on the show for a very long time.
It looks like he's joined
So-
the sacred brotherhood of celibacy monks, is what it
I'd like
looks
for
like.
you guys to meet the host for Michigan
Totally,
Canna Cast, My Canna
Not
Cast.
Ray.
I could,
Not
I
Ray.
could completely, guys. I got it to the point now where I could bust a nut just closing my eyes.
Oh my God.
That is some serious yoga.
Rick,
Just
isn't that
did.
your aspiration? Mike?
Gonna go home.
Don't make me blink my eyes at you. I'll be smiling afterwards.
Now I know why you wear that robe. Okay, that makes sense.
So
yes.
Ray, meet
Hashtag no homo.
meet fellow musician Groovy over here, one of the hosts from My Canna Cast.
Oh, you guys are clowns. I love
Once
it.
you're done laughing at yourself. and Canna Dave. Okay, we're inviting you
What's
guys
How's it
into our
going?
family here.
What's up,
Come
fellas?
on, Ray. What's going on,
Good
man?
to see you guys. It's been forever. Been a minute. It's good
Yes.
to see you,
Yeah.
Deborah.
Good to meet you.
What's up?
Ray assumes he's met everybody
I love
already,
your-
so he
I
just
love-
goes into that. He's a rock star. He was
I
Kid
love
Rock's
your-
guitar player for a while.
I love the profile pic, Deborah.
No shit.
Oh, the background, yeah. Yeah.
It's good to see
Fun
you
for
too,
all
Rick.
ages.
You know what?
Package
It's been
show.
fucking forever.
It's
I'm
been
sorry to
months.
interrupt like this, but damn,
Yeah.
I missed y'all.
Yeah,
and
what
I
the
love y'all.
fuck, Ray?
Months and months and months, Ray. For real.
God. Well, it's been a hellhole climbing out, and I can see some fucking
Unacceptable.
light, and it's been great. You know,
Awesome.
been very
Good.
blessed.
Good, good.
Hey, so let's
Awesome.
Michael, let's I'm gonna talk to the guys from Michigan Canna Cast for a minute about their thing. Hang out with us though, man, you know, and be part of the conversation if you don't mind, and we'll go over again like where people can donate and definitely continue to offer our appreciation for your efforts and all of this. This is huge. It really is. It's hard to overstate that, you know, but thank you very much.
Sometimes it's hard to remember that we're constantly making history and we forget to stop and celebrate our successes. So thank you guys for helping me to have time to celebrate this one. It really is. It's big for the whole community and has national implications, not just across our state.
It's true.
Thanks for having me. And yeah, I'll hang out for a little while.
Mike.
Good.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Do some dabs.
I'm gonna start off before we do this with some space candy from Rare Cannabis that Jamie and I visited recently. I want to get to the Michigan Canna Cast guys, but I just wanted to say, gonna roll up some space candy.
And I had a lot of different pre-rolls when I was there, and they were very good. But I did grab a fat banana.
Where is
Question about
That excited Ray.
yeah, dude, I got a question really quick while I'm about this space candy.
Yeah, well, you said Rare Cannabis? Where was that at?
RAI are in Muskegon as we visited, but they also have one in Bay City.
And they're vertically integrated, and their cultivation is based on aeroponics. Yep.
Yeah, aeroponic growers.
No soil.
Yep. Tiny airplanes
That's
fly
like
through the room and
They're just
spray
hanging around and being
aeroponics.
misted, and they grow.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a friend that
Try
does
that
that. He
flower.
grows
So
some
many
great
different ways
stuff
you
in
can
them
use
Fat
still.
banana. Ooh.
Fat banana.
And I also visited Numbskull Cultivators, their research and development section of the cultivation, and got some very, very nice cannabis to try also.
Fuck yeah.
Always love trying good cannabis.
And Franklin Fields, the vertically integrated cultivator, along with botanical company, is just now beginning first harvest, and some of that stuff looks quite awesome. So it's one of those times when you have a little bit of yield plus some quality. That's the kind of garden that they have there. How those guys on? Because they do some pretty cool stuff.
Russ Chambers on Russ's Facebook page today, he had this like a two-fisted cola, just holding it out right there with some perps in it and some beautiful look to it. It really looked like it had some heft. I can't wait to taste some of that cannabis.
Yep.
That's some hashtag no homo shit right there, bro. I'm not even gonna lie.
Hashtag no homo.
I'm like, bro, I can't wait.
I'm gay for the cannabis plant.
Fuck yeah, man.
I'm straight when it comes to sapiens, but for the sativa, I'm a little.
I'm gonna totally
For the
lick your
sativa,
buds,
I'm a
bro.
little.
I'm licking your buds, bro.
I'll quote you on that, Ray.
Fuck yeah, totally. Yeah.
Look at
I
my
didn't make that. I didn't
my
make that weird.
OnlyFriends page. No.
Ray? You make
Raunchy, Ray.
Never, bro.
Never.
No.
This is like
Hiding
throwback.
behind this little card every time she has a really big smile. Like every time Razor Ray speaks anything, she hides behind the card because Razor's so cute.
Ow.
A lot of
That's
hashtags,
hot.
Ray.
Totally busted. I got a hashtag.
Hashtag no
Hashtag it,
homo.
bro. Hashtag no homo.
Homo.
Exactly.
Hashtag white ash or trash.
Right. We haven't done hashtag no homo since, I don't know, the last time Ray was here.
I
Yes.
was gonna say it's like a finished show.
That's because I'm all about the vagina, bro. I eat pussy.
Oh,
Live large, man.
Yeah, we had a few months off. We didn't miss you.
Been-
It
it's
doesn't
been a bunch of months off. No, I'm good with it. I'm good with it. I've known Ray a long time. I'm fine. I got no problem with it
I feel like this is,
at
I feel like,
all.
I'm like, oh my god, people.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I don't care what they say. It's just people.
Exactly.
Doesn't know how to interact anymore. You forgot.
Totally. Like, dude, I'm sorry. All right, I didn't mean to touch your dick. I'm serious. I was just excited to see anyone.
That is an awkward first encounter to overcome, I'm just going to say.
Dude, I know I've told a very quick story
My
about
subject
Dave
of
grabbing some
friendship.
guy's dick at a restaurant at Lindell AC or something like close to the ballpark years ago. He reached back to grab the door, on the entrance and grabbed the guy behind him. Total stranger, had him by the ball. So, it was kind of, I mean, had him solidly too, because he thought he was gripping a doorknob. So he had him solidly.
I had this weird way in
That's
my
the
hand.
Elwood. Dave just walked by. He said it was the Elwood. So we all know the Elwood.
Dave totally owns the experience.
He owns it.
Directs
Yeah.
the location. The Lindell LC and the Elwood are two very famous sports bars in Detroit, for those viewers who don't know. So, hell yeah. Easy to get them mixed up.
Yep.
No wonder you're smiling.
It's a classic Dave story.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Is it a baseball bat or a hockey stick? I can't see. Oh, God damn it. No, never mind. Either way.
It's a hockey.
That was before hand
Nobody
sanitizer, too.
believes
So,
that. Dave's
really
he's walking back and forth going, that was a mistake, right? No, nobody believes that.
No, we all know.
Oh, wow. Some things
Like,
you just
sure,
don't care
it was a
life, man.
mistake.
Oh, so much fun on Jazz Cabbage Cafe. I call this America's most unpredictable cannabis podcast, and we live up to that. We do.
So let's hear about the Michigan. If you're still willing to talk to us at this point.
This has been the most surprising, entertaining thing ever. Because I'm just like we talked about such a range of things from the beginning to now, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm down. I love it. I mean, of course, I love just talking.
We gotta flow. We gotta flow. A jazz cabbage flow.
Yeah, go. So
Rick,
let us know
Jamie,
about
man.
yourselves and your show and what goes on. I've watched it a few times now, and it's really cool. It's a good. You guys have a good exchange with each other. You have a good content of discussion of between products, flower, and current issues in cannabis, and it's a very good show. It sounds good. You have a nice setup there.
I appreciate that very much because I am the audio video guy, tech guy of us. And I am groovy. I also make music. I do like a electronic music thing with saxophone and keyboard and MIDI controllers. So I do like a mix of live and electronic performance.
Well, really, that's awesome. What are you? Obviously, you're looping, right?
Well, no, I do. I spin on the CDJs and then I'll just grab my sax live and kind of improv live, and then just same thing with the keyboard. But and then I do I did audio for like went to school, did audio, got a degree doing that, and then got into streaming and audio video stuff in the live scene professionally. And then Dave is more that obviously. I mean, I've been a patient since like 2010 with my caregiver right here. We've been boys since middle school.
Yeah.
So we've been honestly just kind of, that's I think a lot of times why we just kind of can talk honestly back and forth and shoot the shit, because we've known each other forever. You know, like a lot of, you know, as you develop relationships, it's great. But you know, we just like to create discussion about cannabis, you know, and that's kind of like our goal, and that's a little bit about me. I'll let Dave get into him, but like we really want to just kind of create conversation, and we have different segments in which we do weekly streams and other stuff again though, because that's like my bread and butter. And then I'll let Canna Dave go.
I'm Canna Dave. Thank you guys again. Background in like marketing, and so I'm pretty much running the socials and getting content out there. We're building like a website and sort of content for that.
But also, you've been doing what for a decade?
I've been growing. Yeah, I've been growing cannabis for a while. Obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Just doing that for a decade. Obsessed with that.
No, I know. It's just like that's just like saying, well, yeah, I've been breathing for like 10 years. I get it.
Yeah, so I'm a caregiver, like Groovy said, for about 10 years. Worked in the cannabis industry for a little bit. Worked at a couple dispos as a bud tender. Helping Hands Provisioning. No, not help. Yeah, Helping Hands Provisioning, and then Advanced Medical Supply in Shelby Township, the one that got raided. So I was involved in a raid, 5 years ago? And so hearing about what happened to you, I was actually able to use what happened to you, Michael. I was actually able to use cannabis because I had asked the judge at the time for probation. But we started the podcast mainly because, to be honest, after the raid and everything happened, I kind of like quit cannabis for a while. I like fell in love with the plant as soon as we turned 18. So after the raid happened, pretty much quit. I had a couple close friends, my girlfriend at the time pushed me to get back into growing because I kind of stopped because they raided my house. They thought I was just a bud tender at the time too. They thought I was part of like the empire, whatever.
Yeah, facing like 7 felonies. So
yeah, they had like 7 charges. And
did they seize items of value at the house?
Yeah, so they destroyed the house, pretty much ripped it all up. They took a bunch of my cannabis that was for my caregivers, destroyed a bunch of my valuable pipes. I used to have like a lot of sweet glass. And I don't anymore because after that they like destroyed all of it. They took the car for about a month and a half. What else? They took money that I had. Like
traumatizing.
He was a bud tender, and
they're like,
yeah,
take your car. We're gonna take your car, but you gotta get to court, dude.
Yeah, my family helped me out a lot. It was traumatizing. We actually did an episode on it. It's because last July we had the actual 5-year anniversary where it happened on a Friday, and they hit the house. They hit 5 homes, the house. It was just traumatizing. I thought they were gonna kill my dog because I have a dog, and I was going there.
That's scary. Yeah,
they do that. So
they
like,
do it. Yeah.
I've had
They still do.
I almost
I've
tear.
had several.
That was teary for me, but that was very traumatizing.
Yeah.
So to get back into cannabis,
Well, that's why I pushed him, because like really a lot of it, like me and him and his dad joke, because there was like a certain point where we were like, hey man, you gotta do this, and gave him shit enough where he was like, oh, I'll just do it a little bit, and it's been I was like, so we were trying to talk about it, and I think Dave does so much research, and I mean now obviously I've been doing a lot of research since we got into the podcast, but it's just been something that we've loved together. We've discussed. We've already picked up things in the industry. We discussed brands, and we'd be like, is this worth it? Is it just branding? Just something we like to do, and that's why we do like our version of a review. And that's like, I don't know. At the end of the day, it was just great to have Dave start conversing about it again, and it was able to get him back in this industry. So it's kind of, and it was a win-win for me because I was just getting out of college, getting into this. I wanted to do some more recording and do that more professionally. So it was just something we wanted to do together. And now here we are. And we always say we're here to advocate,
educate,
inspire. So
and that's our
that's our little like
our,
thing, because that's like
podcast.
our goal, like in like whatever way we can.
Well, two things to observe. Eric Smith from Macomb County is a prosecutor that just faced a bunch of charges for essentially pocketing money that he created through these slush funds that were generated through civil asset forfeiture. And he was the prosecutor at the time period that your raid went down. And, they were extra motivated at that time in Macomb County to do raids like this against caregivers and against suspected caregivers and against people that knew suspected caregivers, So that was their big thing. And this is just another example of why the drug war was evil on almost all fronts. Almost all fronts.
It was
Where you
legal
guys
armed
broadcast
robbery.
it?
That's all
Yeah,
it comes down to is legal armed robbery.
It is.
Got a law that allows them to do this. Happened to me when I was younger too. It took my car and all this shit.
Well, we are in Big Daddy's in Gratiot Town, or I'm sorry, Chesterfield Township, just right down Gratiot Avenue.
Are you guys into Big Daddy's? Do you go back far enough?
No, I live over in the Pontiac area. Pontiac
Yeah.
Water.
I'm all on the east side, like Roseville.
2010,
East side?
2011. That's one.
I love you, Ray. Just bet you
I'm talking East Redford.
Hey, whatever.
Big Daddy's was the shop that got raided back in the day, wasn't it?
Yeah,
It was.
That's Rick. Rick is Big Daddy.
And also the associated houses. Part of that story.
I only worked there.
Well, we were part of a. He did a magazine out of that.
I
That
did
was really
a lot more
awesome
than just
for-
work there.
for a couple of
I was
years,
the number 2 in the organization, but I wasn't the number 1. No,
You was
don't
not
forget.
Big Daddy. You were Big Daddy Junior.
His
guys
name was
named
also
Rick.
Rick, so some people have
Prince
confused that over the years, which is pretty funny.
It is funny.
There's a
You were
Michael
small
Komorn.
daddy.
Speaking of Komorn again, was in Lapeer County, and he was meeting with the police, part of a case, and our buddy, what's that guy's name? That asshole from on the sheriff's department. And
Gary Parks.
Gary Parks says, there's this guy Rick Thompson, and he goes by Big Daddy, and he's like head of all this shit, and he's like, Michael's like, I know Rick is like being in media and like being an activist and stuff like that. I know he was Big Daddy though.
I mean, some women say that, but we don't really like to have that
Good
run throughout the
throw, good
judicial
throw.
system. It's not really where I want that reputation to be at. So
That's what she said moment.
Anyway, one of their stores,
look
they had
like
like
it.
5 or so for a while around the state. We're up around Chesterfield area.
Yeah, we had 5 in
Big
the
court
state.
wrangling over that and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, the attorney general sent a special prosecutor to get me over in Chesterfield Township. We had to do depositions, and it was very traumatic. And they used the nuisance law that's what really settled it. They used the nuisance law to try and padlock that facility. And if we'd lost, the building would have been padlocked and untouchable for a year. And you can imagine what happens to a commercial building where you cannot get in to do maintenance or do anything, or turn on the water, shut off the water, address gas leaks for a whole year.
But
it was just too wicked a punishment for us to allow the property owner to endure.
right on, and it was at
Yeah,
least it
it's
was
crazy.
done civilly. This was like a challenge civilly of whether or not they could operate the business
Not like
there.
they raided us in Oak Park, and it was not a civil method.
It was not, no.
No, it was not.
But there it was, and that was the McQueen case was done like that also. But the other kind of cool thing about the Big Daddy scenario in Chesterfield was that the property owner jumped in and helped out for a while. Got his own lawyer, spent 20 grand on his own lawyer to help support the whole idea that they could be there and operate and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool too, but
Hey,
the
can I ask
forces
a
that be were
question?
just too strong.
What are the first names of the Michigan Canna Cast guys? I didn't get your names when I came on.
Well, our like what we go by, that's Canna Dave and Groovy. That's like what we go
Okay.
by. But
All
what, you
right.
want to know our real names?
Yes.
Our birth names? I am Jeremy.
Is it Dave?
Jeremy and
Oh,
Dave. Okay.
David. He's technically David, but yeah.
Okay.
We're
Okay.
gonna tell-
I go by Dave, though. I go by Dave.
No. No. Nice to meet you.
Canna Dave is a really poor, alias.
Never guess.
I was
Slip right
cool.
under the radar.
Just thought of it. We were smoking.
Groovy, better of an alias, but
Yeah.
So
I don't know. It's what we work with.
And where are you guys broadcasting out? What area are you from?
Again, like Pontiac, Waterford areas. Like usually
Yeah.
my house is where we do a lot of
Yeah.
it. Because like we have the 4 mics set up behind me and stuff. Like this is just
So
Got a studio set up over here. It's pretty sweet.
there were in 2010, there was a couple of major raids right in that area too, as part of a broader scope of the of Sheriff Bouchard and his net team that included getting the places in Ferndale. And in those situations, also the associated houses were all a part of the raids. The people who they were investigating, who were caregivers there, who worked there, the family members.
like I just don't get that
ridiculous.
they're hitting all the whole chain and like you're ruining so many lives throughout this thing. I don't know. I watched him go through hell and back. That's why like doing this, like going from just doing audio for and then getting into
Yeah, we didn't do
video.
video till
There's an upward
when
battle.
when the pandemic hit, we started doing video.
Because we're
that's actually the same thing with Jazz Cabbage Cafe. We were broadcasting on
Well, we
Cave
had
Radio
to.
Broadcasting, and we were exclusively an audio-only radio broadcast. And the pandemic hit, and we switched over to these live formats. So
Yeah, I've seen it with a number of.
It's
the
actually been really good though
podcasts.
to go live too. Though I think it's been a
Oh,
nice
we love it.
concept
We'd
with
be
the
able
video.
to talk to people too in the community that are not just like us, just caregivers and
Like that's how Jamie
users
found
and
us. You were on our
consumers
live,
and-
which is
yeah.
awesome, commenting with us. I think
Yeah,
that's
just
like
to chat.
key, like the virtual people
Yeah.
integrating in with like that. It's very cool concept.
Yeah, I enjoyed the streaming a lot.
Audio is great because you can take it anywhere you want, but if you're just relaxing, you can watch the video. I think that's like pretty cool.
I'm a big fan of saying whatever works for the people that want to listen. You know, if they want to listen to it, they want whatever.
Yeah, a little background on our
Obviously.
show. Like we have like a Terp Talk that we do, like 9 p.m. live on Tuesdays. Right now we're talking about like each specific terpene and what
Just
it is
kinda
in
talk about
cannabis, like the benefits behind it and certain things like this. We're trying to educate the community a little bit. And we're trying to educate ourselves as well with the terpenes because to us, THC is not just the above all thing. It's like the ensemble effect, I believe it's called. And that, yeah.
I'm so glad you got that right.
I'm
Yes.
pretty sure Jamie said
Yeah, I know.
that.
That's double checked. I made sure I didn't say what I was gonna say.
I was like,
I said
Entourage.
entourage last time, but
Yeah,
the ensemble effect. I think that's like the main key thing in cannabis with all the other components, the terps, the other cannabinoids.
Let me
That
show you
is-
this packaging here from Rare. See how it lists the terpenes right there and the different limonene, carotene,
I
humulene?
like that. Yes,
Isn't
yes.
it
like
great?
that a lot.
I
like
really
that.
look for that a lot. Like this, who is this? True North Collective. I actually listed just cannabinoids and terpenes, but I'm a big flavor terpene guy, so I really like just seeing it. It's
think
really
that-
so great.
I think it's nice to see it too, because then
I
it
think-
matches like the hit when you hit it. You're like, oh, it kind of matches what it tasting like.
Well, the maturity of our industry is going to take us into a more educated state. I think there's a lot of people who have experienced cannabis, but there are fewer people that have understood cannabis's experience. So when we start to explain how THC is not the only thing that matters, and that THC numbers are really kind of a poor indicator of what your experiences are going to be like, when people get that message more and more, they adopt it. We're years away from everybody knowing this, but every single day we get more and more people converted to the fact that terps are important. You shouldn't strip them out of plants. It's difficult to reassemble something after you've taken terpenes away from it. And whole plant medicine rocks, man.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
That's one thing that's really bad with these licensed facilities, though, right now. On a number of them, not all of them. There's some good ones, but I work with some realtors and some friends that are really in the space, and when they're counting 100% on remediating their flower before it hits the shelves, like the terpenes are destroyed in that process of the remediation process. Not to mention that they're counting on not even passing testing to begin with. You know, that's another thing. But that terpene quality that really identifies, you know, we all have learned at least that indica and sativa went out the window a few years ago. That doesn't really mean anything. At least it's pushing that conversation to, you got to have the terpenes to develop what the effect is going to be like.
And
So
you're enjoying
there.
Right on, Mike. We talk about that here often. Thank you.
Yeah, and honestly,
we do too as well.
Cannabis is psychoactive. I mean, we all know it. So if you enjoy it, it's gonna hit you better than anything that's like. I mean, personally, like, I mean, obviously, some things are super, some things are not super strong. But if you enjoy it, man, that, you know, it just goes a lot farther.
In my experience, high THC percentage, I don't ever get like the most flavorful smoke of flower.
Don't even necessarily get higher because it's higher. In fact, there's no reason to believe that, or that you're going to get less high if the number is a little bit lower. I mean, it depends on how it all comes together and works with you.
If you want to talk science behind it, like CBD isolate, there's a lot of science behind how less effective isolate is and has a smaller window of efficacy versus the broad spectrum or full spectrum, you know, CBD oils. And when we add terpenes and preserve our natural terpene content, we see that number go from 10% to 20% on a regular basis of how effective it is, because our oil will still have a 3 to 4% terpene profile that we're using to mix into our tinctures. And it really changes the flavor compared to anybody else's products pretty much on the market, because everyone's using distillate or isolate. And it really gives us a place where we stand apart and continue to be able to have a footprint because of that terpene preservation.
I'm a little concerned too that when we reintroduce terpenes that are derived from things like broccoli or kale, you know, you were laughing, but it's true. They take terpenes,
it's very true.
They derive them from vegetables and then throw them in there because they recognize the value of terpenes, but during the process, they've kicked them the fuck out of the plant, and now they want to reintroduce them. Why would you use a process that actually eliminates them instead of just using a process that preserves them in the first place?
And it's not that much harder to grow good quality cannabis if you're already growing it. Like, it's a couple extra steps, you know, like to make sure that it's really done well and done right. The biggest thing is people just don't preserve their product
Very phallic.
In the drying format. The drying, you know, you do all this stuff and everybody rushes that drying. And the drying and the cure, part of the dry is the most important part of the process if you want to have quality and flavor. And the majority of people rush that.
Yeah, I agree. It's in the cure. It's definitely in the cure.
All the time, man. 100%.
What are our growers here? Deb, Mike, Canna, Dave. What do you think about that bud?
That's nice.
Oh, I liked it. Yeah,
it's nice. It's going a little purple. That stuff goes purple because like mine's gone purple too.
Looks frosty. Pretty big.
In the winter, it gets a little cool. You know, it goes purple.
That's part of Franklin Field's first harvest. And those guys have been perfecting this system for a while.
What strain was that?
Yeah,
I don't have the name of it.
Unidentified strain. UK, we don't know.
Purple alien. Right?
Yeah, looks nice.
Oh, nice.
I'm always good at that.
Yeah, but I mean, Michael's right. I mean, I was working with the grower about 7 years ago, and they were selling. I mean, they were trimming and selling it right off of the trim table. You know, I mean, it was just ridiculous. No cure at all, and I don't believe in that. I put at least a 30 days, sometimes 45-day cure.
That's farm to table.
Well, and when you talk about
really
that,
farm to table.
If it's done correctly, you can do that. And that's something that I've actually educated people about. Because
but it was not done correctly. I promise.
Right. No, it normally isn't. It normally isn't. But one trick that I have taught patients who grow their own, the law says usable marijuana. And there's been court cases that define where usable is. And if it's hanging in your dry room, it's not usable marijuana. But if I hang it and dry it under the right and proper conditions, I can trim that up and sell it and have it ready at any time, but never have more than 2.5 ounces available.
It's one of the most stupid interpretations of the
It's a whack loop.
It's ridiculous.
Loophole,
Yeah.
for sure.
It makes
But
it
is
dysfunctional,
definitely
which makes it a
way
bad interpretation, you know. So
for our viewers that don't know what we're talking about, in a medical marijuana law, there's a limitation of having only 2.5 ounces of finished product in your possession at any given time, but you have the privilege of growing 12 plants. And of course, the absurdity of harvesting 12 plants and trying to maintain 2.5 ounces of usability is just crazy. What Michael's talked about is a way to utilize the law to your advantage in order to try and accomplish that, provided you're not harvesting all 12 plants at once.
On the medical side, on the recreational side, you can keep everything you grow.
And that makes sense. So the limitations make more sense to be applied to when you're out and about, not like what you have at your house. Obviously, 72 plants, if you're growing for yourself and 5 patients, it's going to be more than 15 total ounces. You know, it's some.
Oh, definitely, it's going to be. See,
Yeah.
that's the whole thing. I would argue even the stuff that you have jarred that's curing is not usable yet. You know, I've got.
There was a time where people would write on masking tape on their jars, not usable until, and then put like 6 months out, you know.
Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. You know.
Nice.
So
I don't know how well it works, but
normally broadcast and stuff like that, you guys, and then so other people can tune in later on, and then we'll talk to Brandy for a second. But when can people normally catch you live?
Terp Talk Tuesday would be 9 p.m. So tonight live 9 p.m. every Tuesday. We release an audio episode, which is different content than the Terp Talk and Wake and Bake, and that's on all your like streaming platforms: Spotify, Apple, Google, YouTube, and that's Wednesdays at 4:20, and then on Saturdays we do our Wake and Bake, and that's at 9 a.m.
That's where we just I love just hanging out and talking to people, like kind of discuss what's going on, but just kind of in a casual format,
What you
just like
smoking
talking to people that join us a lot. So
yeah, casual conversation we like to have with everybody. So yeah, that's where you can catch us. Find us. You can find us at Mi Canna Cast. We're on .com, our website, all socials. I said all streaming platforms. You can find me at Canna Dave. All streaming or not streaming, socials.
Yeah, and then me, Groovy Music, but just 2 E's, no Y. It's Groovy with 2 E's, no Y, because Groovy with one.
Got you on Spotify.
That was already taken.
Yeah. So just put out some jazzy lo-fi stuff, so a little different. So.
And thanks again. We'd love to come on, and hope maybe you guys would like to come on our show, one of our lives, or one of our episodes.
You guys are welcome to continue to hang out too. I just kind of want to
No. Thank you for giving us a minute to kind of just talk.
Oh
about
yeah, no, totally.
It's your show, so this is awesome. Just being here. That's why I said just listening to you guys is awesome. I was just hanging out. It's awesome.
Cool. So, I'm glad. Welcome.
That's the shit, for real.
Oh yeah.
So, Brandy. And Brandy has definitely been involved in a lot of different areas in this movement and for patients, for legalization with, the pre-ASA, during the early days of ASA at different points along the way, with Michigan Medical Marijuana Association, all types of things. But has given testimony in committees.
Repeal today, baby.
Yeah. Worked with Cannabis Council, and but now there's the beginning of a new chapter for Michigan and for the Americans for Safe Access, and it is just about underway. And Brandy has really spearheaded that and put a lot of the work into it in the organization, and we'd like to let people know about it.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you for having me. Thank you also for supporting Michigan ASA too. We couldn't reform this chapter without you. And we've got a great team of our board of directors that people, different fields across Michigan. And we really are excited that we can start helping get the locals organized and to be able to empower and support each other to do education, to help promote the campaigns that ASA are working on, and help to just get our members and get strong, and so we can be organized and we can really fight when these local municipalities are trying to take away the right to grow. We really need to be able to have the locals be able to show up at these meetings and represent respectfully and with the right talking points that they're going to be able to get the outcome that they want. I think a lot of people don't have the within themselves, maybe they're scared, it's hard to talk about, or they're just really angry. But they might not be using the best words when they're so angry. Sometimes I've seen some of these meetings as of late where I see some strong language and some angry people talking, and it might not be helping us to achieve the relationship that we need to have with our elected people until we get new people elected. So one of the things that ASA does is have workshops, and we have available already how to be an activist guide on our website. And we have all of these pieces of literature that you can print out, or you can get from the website, or someday soon at a local provisioning center or doctor or other cannabis business, you'll be able to find one at your local provisioning center. Oops. So we want to help tackle the opiate crisis. This is the endpainNotLives.org. And it's to help the current policies focus on downstream strategies and penalizing patients and medical providers. Because research shows an almost 25% decrease of opioid overdose deaths in the states with medical marijuana laws. However, medical cannabis is not an option for all patients due to the federal-state cannabis legalization conflict, the inadequacies of state laws, and a lack of education among the medical profession and patients regarding medical marijuana as being a safe alternative to opioid use. So we're going to help focus on passing federal and state laws and work on providing patient and medical provider education, and working to fund additional research for cannabis as an alternative to opiates. So that's one of our missions with ASA for this 2020. And so I want to encourage people to join Americans for Safe Access. And we're going to work with our local dispensaries to help get the information out, and so that you can join and be active and plugged in, so that you can get the email alert. So if there's some kind of action where we're going to ask to support the MORE Act or the different bills that are going through the federal, but also if there's something locally happening, like in the city of Flushing or West Bloomfield or Shelby or wherever it's happening, that we can get the information out to people who might be able to make that difference. In a nutshell.
Great. You've been busy.
We want to educate people on patient-focused issues as well, and participate in the upcoming, when necessary, to get our perspective in on legislative considerations, or local. Well, you said local policy considerations too. Of course, it doesn't matter. Rick has determined the fate. Unless his involvement is in play, there's no chance of anything good happening.
Oh yeah.
It's up to Rick what happens and when.
Yeah,
well, Rick, I do hope that you and everyone here will join ASA and be informed, be active, and help us to be able to continue to do this work. We make some really great, like this is a 80-page book of info and printed, and it's gorgeous. And it's really online, a powerful education tool that we put in the hands of every federal legislator. And I'd like to be able to put it into the hands of every local. So, beyond like the history and all that, it's got the, different methods of ingestion. So someone who doesn't know anything about cannabis, and they're going to be a policymaker, this is sort of a tool that they need to have. This is one of the many, many, many tools at your disposal that are mostly free if you want to download them on the ASA safeaccessnow.org. Hashtag safeaccessnow.org. And you'll get, we can get cool t-shirts and stickers. I know that other people over the years, when we've had a few meetings for the Michigan ASA, we had Steph Scher, the executive director, come, and we did stakeholder meetings where we traveled went to different regions. We kind of had like a carpool bus tour and we got local people, and we, during our stakeholder meeting, we had a consensus, sort of tried to listen and have everyone got to speak about what matters to them, you know, what we need to do to protect our rights, or what's our pie in the sky, you know, say, you know, not just protect our right to have it on probation, or right to keep our job, or the right to, you know, not have our property taken or lose our children. Those kind of rights that were supposed to be implicit in the medical marijuana law. We wanted to be sure that we would always preserve those things that were meant to be intended and the courts had abused or misinterpreted. We wanted to help remedy that. So Steph, when she came, we had meetings everywhere. We got a consensus. That's the model bill that ASA has been working on, and, you know, trying to improve all this time through all the 50 states. So, you know, reaching out, and patients' needs and caregiver needs are not the same everywhere, but there's so many consistencies, and the inconsistencies are what causes the problem too. So ASA really wants to help remove the federal conflict completely. So those inconsistencies, you travel across the state border, you have my asthma inhaler, my diabetes, or any other medicines you might need. You don't need to leave them home because you can't take them with you. So cannabis should be treated the same way. Jamie, I want you to, if you want, to talk about the patient focus certification, because your company that you work with, the botanical company, has been going through this, and there's a couple others that have in Michigan too. So the patient focus certification is something that to help make the consistency the same across all 50 states. And, you know, wherever there's people on the planet, we hope that we're going to be able to have medical cannabis not be a harm or a hardship for someone to obtain across the whole world, right? So these certifications and the PFC program is based on standards that other people in other countries are coming to a consensus that this is what good practices are. So take it away, Jamie.
Yeah, well, I mean, how we lead up to this is the reality that the parallel programs are going to become one in one way or another. There's not going to be a thing that's called the medical commercial program. Either legislatively they'll be combined into one license, or what's called the medical program now will ultimately dissolve because it's not very competitive compared to the other program. It's more expensive. It's more restrictive. It was put in place by the conservative lawmakers, and it was done in part to be restrictive and to limit participation and other things. So, however, the health and wellness aspect and like a medical approach is still very important to be able to help people from that perspective and to take them down a road with some guidance and teach them how to determine what to use, what might be best for their particular situation, and that kind of stuff is still very important. So to be able to point to that certification and say that we meet the standards of the herbal pharmacopoeia and we handle this as plant medicine is something that we have to show people that we still care about those things, even though there's not a particular reason that, and also at Botanical Company, until things change or the tax scenarios get sorted out, we do deduct, as we do for veterans and seniors, 10% for medical patients off adult use items, so that 10% excise tax doesn't have to interfere with the patient's purchase of a product. And so that was the motivator. And I've always liked ASA, but it's been difficult for ASA to have a really solid purpose to be in the state to do stuff. But now there's some educational things. They do have some good campaigns, and these certification things I think are a good idea for, similar to what I just explained. So I like being a part of it for that. And it is a really good group that's been forming so far. That's in the beginning of its. Look at somehow Berg is amused by this conversation.
amused by the Gorilla Glue.
It's
Yeah, I was laughing at the Gorilla Glue.
The distraction. Okay, so I thought I was deep and people were kind of getting into it and stuff like that.
It sounds like he's
fixating on the Gorilla Glue.
Dude, he's eating some chips. He has to be.
So that's what it sounds like when you put Gorilla Glue on your hair. It goes crackle, crackle, crackle like that.
Oh god, Gorilla Glue jokes.
So Brandy,
So,
make sure
you know that Ray is
send
also known for making
You're
taking Pringles cans and making a poor man's fleshlight out of them.
I'm just imagining that hood is now glued to his head. So.
Anyway, did you guys see that girl use Gorilla Glue on her fucking hair and then she's trying to sue
what I
Gorilla
thought.
Glue?
I had to come back into the room for that one, Ray.
And we're back.
Mr. Hash Bash is in the house. You should meet these guys, Adam, Groovy, and Canada Dave, and
Oh yeah. Adam L. Brooke.
have a good conversation.
And Ray.
Yeah, and Ray too. That's a good day. Add
Good
on a few
time.
extra minutes to your normal broadcast and just let them do their thing for a while.
Masters
about
of
it.
distraction.
Anytime. Welcome anytime.
We're gonna talk about vagina and penis and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. Ray is the
those are the
local
basics.
expert on both.
I was really hoping that my dad could watch this podcast and be proud of me.
You know, normally it's been a long time since Ray has been on.
Sorry.
You know, I mean, sometimes we go there, but not quite as often.
Oh, I'm so sorry for your dad. He's gotta like watch you like, oh my god, I'm watching Razor Ray on like overdose and shit. I haven't seen him in a minute.
Yeah.
Your dad's
You
probably
just-
an Insane Clown Posse
you
fan.
know.
Anyway, he recognizes Ray from the band. He's probably grooving on it. It'll be fine.
Right.
Yeah,
Just
that was
throw Ray under the bus.
yeah. I mean,
Dad's a
that's
juggler.
what
That's
everyone
Ray's fault. I
does.
didn't know. Shit. I
Dad
didn't
probably
know he was
watched
gonna be
Harm's
on.
Way warm up for David Allen Coe in Cleveland like 15 years ago. Or
Probably.
longer, maybe now.
But
Chances are
legendary.
really small that
Yeah.
that's true. Really small.
Legendary Razor Ray.
You know what? It's crazy. I just did a interview recently on Insane Clown Posse's live stream. It's kind of like a talk show. Imagine like a like a
Those guys do
Jimmy
an
Kimmel
acoustic
talk
set now, and Ray's normally the acoustic player for when they do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I'm the.
There's
I'm
they've
the-
been around so long now, they do unplugged stuff.
Yeah, we have.
They gotta be sitting
we have
down and
acoustic-
stuff, you know.
We're old and winded and too tired to do the regular shows, and so now we'll.
They
do
have
it.
Ray for the energy while they kind of
Right,
sit and do an
right.
acoustic
You know what?
thing.
It's funny because it's really a lot like Storyteller meets like MTV Unplugged, but insane. You know, Insane Clown Posse.
Well, that's ICD. It must be insane. Come on.
So yeah, I
It
mean,
can't
it
be
was
like
very much.
not insane.
Can you imagine in a full face paint going, "Oh girl, I'm so sad." No, it just wouldn't play.
Well, you know, no, that's the thing is that they take their old songs, which are just like got these wicked fucking hit her with an axe lyrics or hit him with an axe lyrics, but with an acoustic fucking, you know, kind of vibe behind it. You know, it was fun. It's fun. We have a lot of fun doing it. But this,
You take chopping an axe and turning it into a mellow song, huh?
John Denver kind of hatchet job.
If anybody is poised to do that, man, I mean, they got
We can
the
do it.
perfect dude for
It
that.
gets done.
I remember
But no,
watching
it
you
was-
play guitar at a ICP show at Van Endel. And,
I remember throwing my guitar pick at you. I was like,
yeah.
"Here you go."
Oh, Jamie's
Oh,
the
so excited, man. Yeah.
When Jamie
I
threw
figured
his
out how to get
strap on
backstage
the
somehow. I
stage.
was going to meet him
I
no
dipped
matter
it.
what.
I dipped it in some
Yeah.
Fago. I dipped it in some Fago. I feel like
Hey, Brandy, somebody wants to know if ASA may have focus on entheogenic, naturally occurring, medicinal substances besides cannabis.
I want to say that we are allied with many of the same people, and especially because of our ally being the American Herbal Products Association. There's natural affinities between us. So we don't, I guess it's sort of when we were neutral on the adult use too, because it's not our mission, but on the same path that there's health and wellness. So we talked about this at our conference last year. Well, I guess the last in-person conference was 2019. And 2020, I can share a link on the later page for free. Everyone can watch the ASA conference Live, the Unity Conference. And so this was part of our discussion about what's the consensus? What do we think about this? And certainly cannabis has been a gateway for healing towards finding the pathways of other plant medicines, including Chinese herbs and, all kinds of plants, whether they're entheogenic or not. And not all I can't even talk. It's my.
It took me a while to get it down for some reason, so I can excuse this without judgment.
But not all of them are so on small doses. So it's interesting discussion, and I personally completely support plant medicine in all its forms. And I think that's in general how ASA, but we haven't taken any kind of.
It would make sense if ASA it would make sense for ASA to go there at some point as a lot more attention and focus goes there. I mean, probably they could probably be very helpful.
We do have many allies, and for the city by city, the folks organizing like Colorado and Washington D.C. and some other planned cities. Those people who are on those boards are also organizers for an ASA chapter in their states.
Oh,
so that's kind of cool too. So
I want to mention
we're naturally allied.
I want to mention that Adam Brook is here with us. That Russ Chambers has joined us, and
hey, Adam,
and to let Russ know that we put a picture of the just before harvested
the two-fisted cola
fields out there, and we have a lot of great growers and connoisseurs here. We're digging it.
Yeah. Loving it. Can't wait for that Franklin Fields harvest to hit the store. Yum yum.
How do you see everybody?
And
I think he's mentioning
live on
they're
Facebook,
in chat.
and so I watched the chat on there for
they're in
and Gus Rosania, of course, College of Pharmacy.
Professor Gus, let Gus grow. By the
and
way,
he has recently joined recently potentially joined the ASA group, as a matter of fact. So he cares about stuff like this.
While Brandy was doing the ASA thing, and sorry, I had a phone call come in from a clone order. I've been trying to get him to get me to get on the phone so he could hash it out. The state of Michigan has opportunities for education listed through their website.
Mm-hmm.
Only person approved right now is Kathleen Graham and the doctor that she works with. So dig into them. I put in a thing, but I doubt they're going to let me because I run a clinic anyways. From a nonprofit organization like ASA, you can get in and do it, and then I'll just help you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much. I'm a nerd. I take notes. It's like your notes.
Oh.
Like, I did that like when you were talking earlier. I was like, "Ooh, funding, education." So thank you, Michael, and I'm so happy. I want to send some goodies to you and to all the cannabis the provisioning and the education. We got goodies to send coming soon. We got these really groovy Know Your Rights cards that go in your wallet. That say I want my lawyer. I
used to print the ACLU one and hand it out.
And so
that's groovy with the Y.
I got that. Yeah, I dug it.
Yeah.
So Brandy, and then to kind of wrap this for now, in a few weeks, 3-4 weeks, something like that, there'll be a public ASA meeting. There'll be some educational component, maybe some of the national people on there to discuss the organization and type of stuff. Okay.
So it's to be announced. It's coming in March. We'll have our first public meeting. We'll do a Zoom and a Facebook Live, and it'll be a little bit of an agenda that we're going to share with you about ASA, who we are, what we're doing. Have some time for the people from National ASA to come and introduce themselves, and then we'll have some open forum. And Jamie's going to take on. And we're going to have other veterans groups. We're going to have parent groups, and we're going to have different opportunities for support, for outreach. Use the tool that we have through the Zoom. We can't meet in person, but we have a lot of power that we can do when we reach out together. And we need to reach out and send love through the etherwebs to each other. A lot of people have worked very hard to bring the reform to this beautiful movement, and we're all part of a beautiful movement. And I appreciate all of you. And that's why I want to help this Michigan ASA chapter to grow, so we can all continue to keep helping. You know, the first time person who needs to try medical cannabis, you know, they suddenly get a medical condition, and, you know, we want to help them to be able to have the right information. And we want to be able to have the dispensaries to be able to have their staff be well trained, to have the information that they can better serve the patients and the public.
Right on. Thank you, Brandy. And,
Thank you, Jamie.
We'll be checking back in with you and other members of ASA from time to time, and keep up what's going on with that and some of the other organizations we like Michigan Normal and Redemption and Cannabis Caucus and others who are doing some good work out there.
There you go, saying that caucus again.
Yeah.
The Clemency Project.
Yeah, it's been a little while
Last
since we used that joke, so it's kind of
Project.
funny. You know, now it's been a few
Well,
months,
you know
so
what,
it's pretty
every
cool.
time
Yeah,
you just-
need to revive that every once in a while.
I mean, anytime I get a chance.
So, Michael, how can people help out with the fundraising and the donations, and what else would you like to direct people to as we're winding down here?
So my Instagram is Michael Thue, MICHAELTHUE, and then the number 1. There's a link in there for the GoFundMe. My Facebook page, both my public figure page as well as my private page, both have the links up on there. I also have had some people that have just cash apped me. That's Great Lakes Hemp. So the money tag at Great Lakes Hemp. And yeah, any support on that is really appreciated. You know, I've always been the guy that I don't ask for help. I carry the load. I do what I can. I always have. I'm used to being the guy that carries the load. And this year's been kind of tough with COVID and all the new competition with the 13 shops in town that have opened up under the license side in the city limits now. That's just a couple miles from us. It's all had kind of an impact. And then the hemp market has kind of crashed. I didn't really expect it to drop that hard. Luckily, we have our consistent wholesale accounts, and we built a name and a reputation ahead of time. But I'm not trying to sell any bulk oil or anything right now and compete with all these companies that are driving rock bottom prices. Like, sit down and see what happens and kind of wait. You know, so if somebody needs something, you know, I never say no. If somebody's always in a really bad situation and needs the meds, reach out. I never tell anybody no. I'm always there to help, especially when it comes to the tinctures and the topicals and the RSO. Like, you know, yeah, we sell our flour. I'm gonna get our money for our flour, but that's what pays for everything else. So that way I can really do outreach. So I can give away the topicals and the tinctures. Those are the things that really change the minds. The reputation, the image of the industry, like that is setting in medicine. When what was it, 2010, that they ruled all cannabis concentrates were illegal, and we've caught the Michigan Supreme Court. I believe that was Komorn also that caught the Supreme Court falsifying documents to jump the charges up to felonies on synthetic marijuana.
The
state police crime lab.
The state police crime lab.
It was
Took it
Komorn
to the
that
Supreme
got
Court
that.
in the Carruthers case, yeah.
Yeah, so Komorn got that done, but you know, it's like that stuff was happening all over, hopping up charges. And so what it did at that time is it ruled edibles and tinctures and concentrates were illegal. Well, you know what? I never changed my banner. My banner always said edibles, topicals, and tinctures, and I never stopped because I believed that was the true intent and purpose of the law. And at that time, I worked with infants already. That was my focus, was working with children. That's why I got into CBD very early on. How are you going to tell me that my 4-year-old patient can't have his oil that he's in here asking for his brain cancer, but I'm going to make him sit down and smoke a joint with me? Like, that just makes no sense. And I was willing then to try it. You know, and Don Bailey, he caused hell in our community. That boy lives 10 miles down the road from me. I never heard a peep out of that man's mouth. But I've also grew up with his superiors. He's just a sergeant. I know both of the lieutenants that are in charge of our local force. I haven't got the best of background, but I at least have the respect, and I've always been respectful and have an open relationship with these guys, at least to be transparent. Now I pay cops to use, to work our events when we've done our community outreach. I sponsor the police basketball games and the firefighter fundraisers and everything that I can for community involvement and engagement. And that keeps them off of our back. That lets them know that we're transparent. We're willing to talk to them. We're willing to work with them. But I'm not going to open the doors and let them just come in and have reign. Like, no, respect the law. I've let you beat me up with the law for a long time. Now respect the law that we passed. It's on the books now.
All right.
You don't,
right?
Then it leads to
Amen.
us still having to fight like we
I
did
hear
on
that.
this recent court case. Like, you're gonna respect the law. Like,
Hey, man,
Hey,
thank you
Michael.
very much, Michael. That was huge. Go ahead, Ray. Sorry.
Hey, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt either one of you guys, but before I forget to ask, man, because I heard what you were saying as far as how you're struggling because of the whole COVID situation, and how these other everybody's struggling, obviously, and you also got all these dispensaries that are popping up. You figure like the one with the most money is the one's going to win, so chances are it's probably corporate sponsored. But I mean, is it possible to be able to extend the olive branch of like, reaching out to the others in the area, the other dispensaries in the area, that to come up to some working type of condition where nobody has to take a huge loss, where everybody's kind of community's actually doing what you're trying to do. It's help each other.
Get together and price fix, you mean? Like,
yeah, exactly. I mean, is there some like basically it becomes a union to that degree? But here you go, bro. Be the William Wallace.
People should be supporting each other as the industry builds and not jumping right to competition. That's always been kind of a problem in this.
That's the problem, right? And we kind of see, because we talked about that some time ago as this thing was going to happen, which would have been the inevitable. Like, at some point, the big boys are going to come in and fucking just take over once they've seen that this formula is working. So I think it's, the only way to compete with the big boys is like, for the smaller cats to fucking unite, come up with some form of a way, and and not just on price points and everything, but having some sort of like worked out situation with the government, with the local government, with the with the state government, where they can't do that shit.
We're getting kind of toward the end of the show, and that's a good discussion in and of itself. And right now there is an industry association that has 250 plus members of people that would be more inclined to understand business and to be competitive and to work in an environment where there's a growing industry and that type of thing. And then there's other organizations. There's a manufacturers association made up of the biggest investors who try to use their influence and resources to artificially gain market share. And so there is kind of that stuff going on. And
right, we know what's going on.
There's room for a lot of improvement, and as far as that goes, man. But that's something we can definitely talk about in the future. But we're starting to wind down. But good call, Ray. I'm glad you came on, man. It's definitely been a long time. So I hope that's.
Well, I'm glad I could bring up a good point other than just talking about cock. It's cool.
Thanks, being my gorilla there, big man.
Yep, it's not the same unless Ray brings a little dick with him.
Or a big dick too. It doesn't matter. It depends what time of day it is.
I like that. End pain, not lives.
Hey, so Berg.
Fuck opiates.
Medical Mondays, man.
Excuse me.
And what else you got going on?
Every Monday, 9 p.m. YouTube.
Fuck yeah. Love that show.
Medical Mondays on everything.
And one of these days you'll be back in the studio
on
too.
YouTube, you gotta look for a podcast though. You gotta say Medical Mondays podcast.
Podcast.
It should be podcast.
If you put in podcast, it just directs you to podcast. So you just spell it however you want to. It all works out.
Hey, Colin, what do you got, man? NTO?
Check out the NTO show Friday at 4 p.m. We have people from Decriminalized Nature Massachusetts coming on. So
Nice.
Oh, and also Michigan Psychedelic Society is hosting a like thank you plant medicine meeting on Saturday at 6:30 p.m. on Zoom. So check out that too.
With Julie Barron?
Yep.
Imagine. Okay. Been on the show many times. Also worked with you guys on these issues and headed up some of these organizations and stuff. And
yep.
Very
and
knowledgeable.
2/20 is like thank you plant medicine day. So that's what it's going on all across the country. Different groups are hosting meetings.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey Deb, want to sign off with anything?
Nothing. I got nothing. Just enjoying the snow.
Well, thanks for being around again for yet another show. It was a good show. Packed a lot in here.
Yeah, it was a great one.
All right. Rick, take us out.
Well, Groovy and Canada Dave, when's your show, big guys?
4:20 Wednesdays it comes out. We do live streaming Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Saturdays, 9 a.m.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thanks. So check
Thanks
that
for
out.
having us.
Yeah, thank you again.
That was great,
Thank
man.
you.
Thanks for joining us for like the whole show, man. Just about that's very cool.
Oh yeah,
Glad you participated.
Yeah, we see it. We just want to hang out.
Yeah, great to meet
Fun. Thank
everybody
you.
actually. So
Good hanging out.
Nice
with you
meeting you, Mike and Berg and Brandy and Colin and obviously Rick and Jay and Ray.
Great show.
Even Ray.
Good
Wow.
hanging out.
I didn't say even. I said
Oh, no.
Mexican in the dark.
Another good show. Another good show.
No,
Continue to
I
spread
worked
the
with all
love.
the guys.
Yeah. Well, the fact is, we got a whole lot of difference makers here on this program today. We've had a lot of people that have taken the lead in their own individual areas and made strides and forced change upon a system that really resists change. And damn, it's great to be surrounded by this many people that have done great stuff. And Berg.
So,
yeah.
Mr. Hashbash wants to remind people that there will be some people showing up at the Diag for the 50th year and that kind of stuff. That is iffy right now under the pandemic thing, but that is something that some people are doing, and traditionalists are going to have a hard time staying away. But there is also going to be an online production to represent Hashbash with a lot of good stuff this year too. So 420 post, obviously 1 o'clock on Wednesdays too. Planting green trees 8 o'clock on Thursday. Weeds and reeds whenever Shelly puts one out. Smoking rope.
Reeds and weeds.
Reeds and weeds. Smoking rope with Ryan Basor. Put out on Fridays and broadcast live on Wednesdays on Facebook. They record it. So, and in fact, Michael, they talked about wanting to have you on the Smoking Rope here pretty soon. Discuss a little bit more in depthly what you're doing with the business side of stuff too, because they're appreciative of your efforts there. And then talk about this case a little more, because it is huge, and we should end realizing that really nice significant change took place, and appreciate your efforts on that. And with that, thanks everybody. Jazz Cabbage Cafe.
Love you, Berg. Sorry for the dig. Sorry, man.